G'day everyone, welcome back to Pete's Investing. It's April 30th, 2024. This is the Nat Gas, Boyle, KOLD and UNG gas update. And as you can see, all have risen slightly. We had a bit of a bounce with the exception of KOLD, which is the inverse. So let's look at the heat map. And this is our heat map for all our instruments we cover on various videos. But you can see on the top right, Nat Gas is still, and all of them are still pretty predominantly trending short. On the monthly, on the weekly predominantly long, and on the daily all long except for KOLD, as I said. So what we look at first is the trend across all time frames, so the monthly, weekly and daily. And you can see here we predominantly base it on the CCI 150, and that's below the moving averages. That's a short positioning. On the weekly it's broken up through those bands, it's bullish, and on the daily likewise it's also bullish. Now in a short term, on a daily, you can see there we did have a very small bullish divergence down here versus lower lows on the price versus higher lows on the CCI, and it actually bounced up from there, and we projected it to hit at the very minimum this 23%, 38% Fibonacci level, and that's between that Fibonacci range between that low and that high. It actually hit our target area, and that also corresponded with this resistance at 2058. Now, since our last update, it's actually broken up there and broken through the second time, and is currently resting up there around about the 2100 level. Now, you'll notice that's also very close to the 38% level. So we'll take this one step at a time in terms of its progression. But at the moment, the weekly and the daily are showing bullish movement on the CCI, which is giving us some bullish movement. On the daily and the hourly in more detail, I just got the daily here as a reference point. But on the hourly, you can see there more closely, we've got this move up here, and I've got this, let me just go back here a bit. We did have previously, when it declined, it retraced back down in this Fibonacci range to 61%, just short of it, and then bounced from there. And that 61% is key, because if it breaks a lot lower than that, that would have been a continuous downtrend. But you can see there the CCI adjusted as well as the price, and that moved higher. Now in the short term, we want to consider this. You can see there it's almost reaching that previous high, so that's a positive move and further upside to be taken. So very cautiously, if you were to trade this, you're taking long trades when the CCI breaks above the moving average band. So you could have taken those few hours there, as long as in this case the daily is also trending up. So again, remember the trading on the smaller time frame based on the higher time frame trend. Next we look at BOIL. There's no indicator on the monthly, but notice it's a very sharp decline, so I would say that's bearish. However, on the weekly, we've got a bullish divergence, higher lows on the CCI versus lower lows on the price. But again, I would not be trading this until we saw a lot stronger move to the upside, especially if it breaks above these moving averages on the price chart as well. On the daily, we did have a bullish divergence here, higher lows versus lower lows on the price. It broke a bit below this support line at 1346, and it's been hovering around that for a number of weeks now, a number of months actually, and hasn't really made any progress up from there. If we go to the daily and the hourly in more detail, again I've got the hourly there as a reference point. You can see there we take each one of these steps step by step. So here we've got a break above this support line at 1346, as I said, but notice it's gone as high as that 61% level. Now it may actually retrace back to the downside, or if it continues much higher than that and starts threatening this previous high, then that's going to be a nice big bullish signal to watch out for. So at the moment, very cautiously bullish, but I'd like to see it break a lot higher than that 61% on that 1 hour time frame. So this is KOLD, and you can see there it's no sign on the CCI, but the price moving averages have broken higher. So I would say that's at least very least neutral, if not bullish. On the weekly, it's bullish. It's been doing that for some time. You notice there was a bullish divergence here versus lower lows on the price, and it bounced quite strongly from that low there. So that was as a result of this bullish divergence on the CCI on the weekly. On the daily, however, we did have a bearish divergence, lower highs versus higher highs, and it's actually bounced down and hit our target. And if you're new to the channel, those targets are traced from that low to that high. And you can see there, that's a 23-38%. That's a minimum target range. It's actually come down as far as the 50% level, and then it bounced from there, and it's currently hovering around between the 23 and the 38% level. And making further declines. You notice the CCI is still dropping off, so a weakening move at the moment on the daily at least. Going to the daily and the hourly chart, again you can see there, since our last video, traced up higher slightly, then it fell off again. And again, that rise, let me just draw a Fibonacci between that low on the hourly chart. You can see they broke above the 61%. Doesn't always, it needs to break above much higher than the 61%. In this case it did, but then it broke to the downside. So nothing's 100% in trading, so remember that. In this case it fell a lot lower, and now retracing back down towards this previous low. So we'll keep an eye on that, but at the moment cautiously going short with the daily, also showing a short positioning. And lastly, we'll look at UNG. So this is short on the monthly. It's bullish on the weekly, although it's still below the moving average bands of the price chart. But the CCI is showing bullish divergence. But notice it's still falling. So as long as that CCI keeps rising and the price keeps falling, we're going to keep tracking it. So I wouldn't be entering long yet until that starts breaking, especially above these moving average bands on the weekly. On the daily, however, we did have a bullish divergence versus lower lows on the price. Again, similar to the other chart, it's been hovering around that support line at this time at 14.57, and it's threatening to make a further upside. CCI is still still rising, so if that starts falling, then we're going to consider this a weakening sign. But at the moment, it's still bullish and moving higher. But again, I'd wait for this to break higher on the weekly before taking any long positions. On the daily and the hourly, again, we've got the daily there as a reference. On the hourly, you can see there it's actually in that smaller time frame, it's actually in that Fibonacci range, resting around the 61%. Again, we need to see it break a lot higher and reaching this previous high to be more bullish. So you can trade these, but this is a pretty risky trade in my book. I'd like to see this, as I said from the previous chart, I'd like to see this break a lot higher to be more bullish and more confident. At the moment, it's a bit iffy. You can see there it's fluctuating up and down. I'd like to see it break previous highs, and especially this on the hourly chart, this previous high here. To support us more, go to the Patreon page where we look at weekly scans of bullish shares. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.